When a black man enters a $50 million jewelry store, the first words he hears aren't "welcome, but are you lost?" Marcus Johnson stands at the threshold of Brilliance & Co. on Fifth Avenue, his weathered Nikes silent against polished marble that costs more per square foot than most people earn in a month. The December air carries the weight of Christmas shopping desperation. But inside this cathedral of diamonds, time moves differently. Crystal chandeliers cast fractured light across display cases that hold more wealth than small nations possess. Behind bulletproof glass, emeralds the size of golf balls sit next to watches that could buy Manhattan penthouses. This is where Manhattan's elite come to purchase symbols of their superiority, where old money meets new money, and both look down on no money. 25 years ago, Marcus stood in this exact spot as a Harvard scholarship student, his second-hand suit and scuffed shoes earning him nothing but contempt and a swift escort to the sidewalk. The security guard's words still echo in his memory. "This ain't for people like you, boy." Today, he wears the same uniform of simplicity, a navy polo shirt, dark jeans, and those faithful Nikes that have carried him through boardrooms and back alleys alike. His appearance screams middle management, maybe a subway conductor on his day off. Nothing about his 6-foot frame suggests the power he wields, the empire he's built from nothing but determination and brilliance that no amount of money can buy. The irony tastes bitter on his tongue. Yesterday, his signature completed the acquisition of Brilliance & Co.'s parent company, making him the de facto owner of every diamond, every emerald, every sneer that lives within these walls. The $2 billion deal sits locked in his phone, a digital document that transforms him from unwanted visitor to ultimate authority. But today, he's just a black man in simple clothes, seeking to buy his wife Sarah a 20-year anniversary gift that matches the magnitude of her sacrifice. Sarah deserves the rare $2 million Tiffany diamond he's researched, the one that sits in the VIP section like a crown jewel. She stood by him when his company operated from their garage, when ramen noodles constituted fine dining, when rejection letters outnumbered acceptance letters by impossible margins. She believed in his vision when venture capitalists saw only his skin color, when banks denied loans they'd grant to lesser men with lighter complexions. Now, Johnson Enterprises spans 3 continents, employs 40,000 people, and generates revenue that makes nations envious. Yet here he stands, invisible to those who worship money, while failing to recognize its master. The security guard, a thick-necked man whose nameplate reads Tony, eyes Marcus with the practiced suspicion of someone paid to keep undesirables at bay. His hand rests casually on his radio, ready to summon backup against this perceived threat to their pristine environment. Behind the main counter, Jessica Reynolds adjusts her blonde hair and checks her reflection in a diamond surface, her Princeton education apparently failing to include lessons on basic human decency. She's 25, hungry, and convinced that her commission checks make her superior to anyone who doesn't shop here regularly. Marcus approaches the counter with measured steps, each footfall a drumbeat of destiny that Jessica fails to hear. The distance between them represents more than physical space. It's the chasm between assumption and reality, between prejudice and truth. He's calculated this moment for decades, planning his return to the scene of his greatest humiliation. But he never imagined it would unfold like this, with him holding all the cards while his opponents remain blissfully unaware of the game they're playing. The afternoon light streams through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating dust motes that dance like tiny diamonds in the air. Outside, Manhattan's elite rush past in their urgent pursuit of holiday preparations, unaware that history is about to unfold behind these glass walls. Inside, the stage is set for a confrontation that will redefine everything these people believe about power, respect, and the dangerous assumptions that destroy lives. Marcus reaches the counter and waits. Jessica continues examining her manicure, her deliberate ignorance as polished as the gems surrounding her. Tony shifts his weight, hand still hovering near his radio. The other customers, Manhattan's finest in their winter furs and designer handbags, glance over with mild curiosity, their expressions already forming judgments based on nothing more than melanin and modest attire. The silence stretches like a held breath before a scream. Marcus stands patient as stone, knowing that every second of their disdain builds toward a reckoning they cannot possibly imagine. His phone buzzes once, a text from Sarah asking about dinner plans. She has no idea that her anniversary gift is about to become the catalyst for justice served cold as winter diamond. What happens when the hunter becomes the hunted without even knowing the rules have changed? Jessica finally looks up, her blue eyes scanning Marcus from head to toe with practiced dismissal. Her smile never reaches her eyes, the kind of expression reserved for people she considers beneath her time and attention. "Can I help you?" The words emerge flat and cold, each syllable carrying the weight of assumed superiority. She doesn't invite him to sit, doesn't offer the complimentary champagne that flows freely for their real customers, doesn't even pretend that his presence brings her anything but inconvenience. Marcus nods toward the diamond display case, his voice carrying the quiet confidence of a man who's faced down hostile boardrooms and emerged victorious. "I'd like to see some engagement rings for my wife, something special for our 20th anniversary." His words are precise, educated, carrying no hint of the street corners where he learned his first lessons about survival and respect. Jessica's eyebrows arch slightly, as if he's just claimed ownership of the moon. "The rings here are quite expensive," she says, her tone suggesting he's confused about his location, his finances, or his place in the world. "Are you sure you're in the right place?" She doesn't bother hiding her skepticism, doesn't pretend professional courtesy, doesn't even attempt to disguise her assessment that he's wasting her valuable time. Marcus maintains his composure, though his jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. "I'm interested in the Tiffany piece in your VIP collection, the 2-carat rare diamond." The specificity of his request should signal serious intent, but Jessica's worldview has no room for black men with million-dollar jewelry budgets. "That piece is $2 million, Jessica responds, her voice carrying the satisfaction of someone delivering what she believes will be a knockout punch. "I don't think." She lets the sentence hang, allowing her implications to fill the space between them like toxic gas. Marcus reaches into his wallet with deliberate calm and places his American Express Centurion card on the glass counter. The black metal catches the light, its weight and rarity speaking to credit limits that exceed most people's annual salaries. But Jessica stares at it like it's a foreign artifact, her mind struggling to reconcile its presence with her assumptions about its owner. "This card," she begins, picking it up as if it might burn her fingers. "Is this real?" The question escapes before her professional training can stop it, revealing the depth of her prejudice in 4 simple words. Stephen Morrison emerges from the back office like a predator sensing disturbance in his territory. At 52, he's spent 15 years as floor manager, building his career on the ability to identify and cater to Manhattan's wealthy elite while efficiently disposing of those who don't belong. His gray suit costs more than most people's monthly rent, his silver hair is perfectly styled, and his expression carries the cold authority of someone who's never doubted his right to judge others. "Is there a problem here, Jessica?" His question aims at the young saleswoman, but his eyes never leave Marcus, scanning him with the practiced assessment of someone paid to maintain exclusivity. Everything about Marcus, from his casual attire to his relaxed posture, triggers Stephen's internal alarm system. Jessica leans closer to Stephen, her voice dropping to what she imagines is a whisper but carries clearly in the marble-walled space. "This man wants to see the $2 million Tiffany piece. He has this card, but..." She trails off, letting Stephen draw his own conclusions about the likelihood of authenticity. Stephen's smile is razor-thin as he turns his full attention to Marcus. "Sir, I'm Stephen Morrison, the floor manager. I understand you're interested in one of our premium pieces." His voice carries false politeness, the kind of courtesy extended to someone you're about to politely but firmly eject. "That's correct," Marcus replies, his tone remaining level despite the rising tension. "I'd like to purchase the rare diamond ring for my wife's anniversary." Stephen nods slowly, as if considering a child's request for an expensive toy. "I see. Well, our premium collections require appointments, especially for pieces in that price range. We serve a very specific clientele, and we need to ensure proper verification of funds, background checks, references from other luxury establishments. His words build a wall of bureaucracy designed to exclude without explicitly discriminating. "I have a Centurion card and excellent credit," Marcus states simply, gesturing toward the black metal still lying on the counter between them like evidence in a trial. "Anyone can get a fake card these days," Stephen responds with a dismissive wave. "We've had problems with people coming in here, wasting our time, trying to photograph our pieces for insurance fraud or other purposes." The pause before other purposes carries weight, suggesting criminal intent without making direct accusations. Mrs. Catherine Wellington, a 70-year-old Manhattan socialite dripping in inherited diamonds, approaches the counter with the confidence of someone who's never been denied anything in her privileged life. Her mink coat probably cost more than Marcus paid for his first car, and her expression suggests she's witnessing something distasteful that threatens her shopping experience. "Excuse me," she interjects, her voice carrying the imperious tone of old money and older prejudices. "I've been waiting to see that same ring. I have an appointment." Her lie flows smoothly, backed by decades of practice in getting what she wants through intimidation and entitlement. Stephen immediately brightens, his demeanor transforming as he recognizes a member of his preferred customer base. "Of course, Mrs. Wellington. Jessica, please prepare the VIP viewing room for Mrs. Wellington." His eager accommodation stands in stark contrast to his treatment of Marcus, the difference so obvious it makes other customers pause their conversations to watch. Marcus feels the familiar burn of injustice, the same sensation that drove him from poverty to power. But this time, he's not a powerless student with nothing but dreams and determination. This time, he holds cards they can't even imagine, weapons they've unknowingly placed in his hands through their own greed and assumption. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," Marcus says quietly, his voice carrying an undertone that makes Jessica step back instinctively. "I'm not here to waste anyone's time. I'm here to make a purchase that will change your day considerably." Stephen's laugh is sharp and dismissive. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You're disrupting our other customers, and frankly, I don't think this establishment is the right fit for your budget." The word budget drips with condescension, suggesting Marcus has wandered far from his appropriate shopping district. Tony, the security guard, moves closer, his bulk casting a shadow across the counter. His hand rests on his radio, ready to call for backup if this situation escalates beyond his ability to handle alone. Other customers begin pulling out phones, some recording what they assume will be another viral video of someone being put in their place. Marcus looks around the store, taking in the faces that surround him, some hostile, some curious, all assuming they know exactly who he is and what he represents. The irony tastes bitter as copper pennies. These people worship wealth while failing to recognize it when it stands before them, in simple clothes and humble bearing. He reaches for his phone with deliberate calm, his fingers finding a contact he hoped he wouldn't need to use. The device feels heavy in his hand, weighted with the power to transform this moment from humiliation into revelation. "Richard," he says when the call connects, his voice carrying across the silent store like thunder before lightning. "It's Marcus. I'm in the Fifth Avenue store. I think it's time we implemented the new management structure we discussed." Stephen's confident smirk falters slightly, but he rallies quickly. "Go ahead and call whoever you want, sir. We have security cameras, witnesses, and procedures to protect ourselves from false claims or threats." Marcus ends the call and slides his phone back into his pocket. He looks directly at Stephen, then at Jessica, then at Mrs. Wellington, memorizing their faces for what he knows will be a moment they'll remember for the rest of their lives. "I think you'll find the next few minutes quite educational." The store falls silent except for the soft hum of climate control and the distant sounds of Manhattan traffic. Light continues to filter through the windows, casting long shadows that seem to point toward an inevitable reckoning. Marcus stands perfectly still, a statue of calm in the center of a storm that hasn't yet realized its own fury. But the calm always comes before the hurricane arrives to reshape the landscape forever. 10 minutes later, the store's front door crashes open, with enough force to rattle the crystal displays. Richard Walsh, CEO of Brilliance & Co., stumbles through the entrance like a man fleeing a burning building. His usually immaculate gray hair is disheveled, his expensive suit wrinkled from what appears to be a frantic taxi ride across Manhattan, and his face carries the pale complexion of someone who's just realized their career might be ending in real time. Richard's eyes scan the store frantically until they lock onto Marcus, and the color drains from his face entirely. He rushes across the marble floor, his Italian leather shoes slipping slightly in his haste. His breathing labored from what appears to be a combination of physical exertion and pure panic. "Mr. Johnson." Richard's voice cracks with desperate relief and barely controlled terror. "Sir, I had no idea you were planning to visit the store today. If I had known." He trails off, his hands shaking slightly as he approaches the counter where Marcus stands, surrounded by increasingly confused staff and customers. Stephen Morrison's confident smirk begins to crack around the edges. "Mr. Walsh, you know this, gentlemen?" The word gentleman emerges reluctantly, as if Stephen's mouth rebels against showing even basic respect. Richard turns toward Stephen with an expression that could freeze fire. "Know him, Stephen? This is Marcus Johnson. He's the chairman of the board, the majority stockholder, and as of yesterday afternoon, your boss." Each word drops like a stone into still water, creating ripples of shock that spread throughout the store. Jessica's face goes through a series of transformations: confusion, disbelief, recognition, and finally, horror. The Centurion card still lies on the counter between them, no longer a suspicious artifact but evidence of authenticity she was too prejudiced to recognize. Mrs. Wellington's mouth opens and closes silently, her usual stream of entitled demands suddenly dried up at the source. "That's impossible," Stephen stammers, his authority evaporating like morning mist. He's just. He gestures vaguely at Marcus's casual attire, his prejudices so deeply ingrained that he can't reconcile appearance with reality. Richard pulls out his phone and shows Stephen the digital documents that have been flooding his emails since yesterday. "Johnson Enterprises completed the acquisition of our parent company 24 hours ago. 85% controlling interest, $500 million. Mr. Johnson now owns this store, this building, and frankly, your employment contract." The silence that follows is so complete that the sound of Manhattan traffic seems to fade away. Customers begin lowering their phones, realizing they're not recording someone being ejected, but witnessing the revelation of ultimate authority. The power dynamic doesn't just shift, it explodes and rebuilds itself with Marcus at the apex. Marcus speaks for the first time since making his phone call, his voice carrying the quiet authority of someone who's just watched their enemies destroy themselves. "I came here to buy my wife a ring for our 20th anniversary. The same wife who supported me when we had nothing, who believed in me when banks wouldn't give us loans, who stood by me while I built a company that apparently now owns the place that once threw me out for being too poor and too black." Jessica makes a small sound in the back of her throat, somewhere between a gasp and a whimper. The weight of her treatment crashes down on her as she realizes she's just insulted the man who signs her paychecks, who controls her career, who has the power to end her professional life with a single word. "Mr. Johnson," Stephen begins, his voice now carrying desperate apology instead of dismissive authority. "If I had known who you were, I would never have. We would have provided our finest service. There's been a terrible misunderstanding." Marcus looks at Stephen with the same expression he might reserve for something unpleasant stuck to his shoe. "The only misunderstanding was thinking that 25 years would change anything about how people like you treat people like me. You didn't refuse me service because you didn't know who I was. You refused me service because of what I look like." Mrs. Wellington attempts to salvage her position by pivoting toward Marcus with a nervous smile. "Well, I'm sure we can all laugh about this little mix-up now that we understand the situation." Her voice carries the same entitled confidence that has carried her through 7 decades of privilege, but it sounds hollow in the face of Marcus's unimpressed stare. "There's no mix-up," Marcus replies coldly. "There's just a perfect demonstration of why some people deserve respect and others deserve consequences." Richard wrings his hands like a supplicant before an angry god. "Sir, I assure you this doesn't represent our company values. We'll conduct a full investigation, implement new training programs, review our customer service protocols. His words tumble over each other in a desperate attempt to contain damage that's already spreading beyond control. Marcus walks behind the counter with the confidence of someone who owns everything in sight. Jessica scrambles backward, pressing herself against the wall as if proximity to her new boss might burn her. He examines the Tiffany ring through its bulletproof glass, the diamonds catching light and throwing rainbows across his face. $2 million, he says quietly, more to himself than to anyone else. The same amount I spent on Sarah's engagement ring 25 years ago was $200, and I had to save for 6 months to afford it. She cried when I gave it to her, not because of the diamonds, there weren't any, but because she knew what it represented. He turns back toward the gathered crowd, his expression shifting from reflection to cold determination. Jessica, you're fired. Stephen, you're fired. Tony, you're fired. Effective immediately. His words cut through the air like surgical instruments, precise and final. Stephen's legs seem to give out slightly. You can't. I have a contract. Union protections. 15 years of service. His protests sound weak even to his own ears. You have a contract with a company I now own, Marcus responds without emotion. A company whose reputation you've damaged with your bigotry and whose values you've violated with your treatment of potential customers. Security will escort you out. Jessica begins to cry, mascara running down her cheeks in dark rivers. Please, Mr. Johnson, I need this job. I have student loans, rent payments. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Marcus studies her with the dispassion of a scientist examining bacteria. You're not sorry about what you did. You're sorry about who you did it to. If I had been actually poor, actually powerless, you'd be proud of how you treated me. Mrs. Wellington makes one last attempt to preserve her shopping experience. Surely we can move past this unpleasantness. I still have my appointment to view the ring. Her voice trails off as Marcus's attention settles on her like a weight. Mrs. Wellington, Marcus says, his voice carrying dangerous, quiet. You participated in excluding someone based on their appearance. You supported discrimination because you thought it benefited you. Consider your shopping privileges at all our stores permanently revoked. The old woman's mouth drops open, her sense of entitlement finally meeting immovable reality. You can't ban me. I've shopped here for 30 years. I'll call my lawyers, my connections at the mayor's office. Please do, Marcus replies with a slight smile that doesn't reach his eyes. I'd love to explain to them how you supported racial discrimination in a public accommodation. I'm sure the media would find it fascinating. Richard continues hovering nearby, his career hanging by a thread that grows thinner with each word Marcus speaks. Sir, what would you like me to do about the situation? How can we make this right? Marcus looks around the store one final time, taking in the faces of staff and customers who've just witnessed their assumptions crumble in real time. Some look ashamed, others angry, a few genuinely remorseful. All look smaller than they did 30 minutes ago. Close the store for the day, Marcus commands, his voice carrying the authority of absolute ownership. Send everyone home. Tomorrow, we start fresh with new staff, new policies, and new understanding about what respect actually means. As the words settle over the store like a blanket of finality, Marcus realizes that buying Sarah's ring has become secondary to buying something far more valuable, a lesson in consequences that will echo through these walls long after the diamonds have been sold and the displays have been changed. The hunter has indeed become the hunted, but the prey never saw the trap until it was too late. The Brilliance & Co. store floor transforms into a theater of consequences as Marcus takes control of his unexpected stage. The afternoon light streaming through the windows seems brighter now, illuminating a scene where power has shifted so completely that the very air feels different. Marcus moves with the calm precision of a general surveying a conquered battlefield, each step echoing through the marble-lined space with the weight of absolute authority. Richard, Marcus begins, his voice carrying the tone of someone accustomed to immediate obedience. I want you to gather every employee currently in this building. Sales staff, security, management, cleaning crew, everyone. Bring them to the main floor immediately. Richard nods frantically and hurries toward the back offices, his expensive shoes clicking against the marble like a countdown timer. Within minutes, a collection of confused faces emerges from various corners of the store, salespeople who've been watching the drama unfold from safe distances, security guards who suddenly understand their authority means nothing, and support staff who rarely venture onto the showroom floor. Marcus positions himself behind the main counter, the symbolism intentional and unmistakable. Where moments ago he stood as an unwelcome outsider, he now commands from the position of ultimate insider. The Tiffany ring still glints in its case nearby, a $2 million reminder of what started this revolution. Everyone gather around, Marcus instructs, his voice carrying easily across the space. What you're about to hear will determine whether you have jobs tomorrow or become unemployed today. The assembled group forms a nervous semicircle, their faces reflecting various stages of confusion, fear, and dawning realization. Some clutch their phones, others fidget with jewelry or clothing, all sensing that their professional lives hang in the balance of whatever comes next. Marcus surveys the faces before him, noting who makes eye contact and who looks away, who stands tall and who seems to shrink. 25 years ago, I was a Harvard student working 3 jobs to pay for an education that would eventually create one of the largest technology companies in the world. I came into this store to buy my girlfriend an engagement ring, and I was thrown out because my clothes weren't expensive enough and my skin wasn't light enough. A few employees shift uncomfortably, recognizing echoes of attitudes they've witnessed or perpetuated in their own customer interactions. Marcus continues, his voice growing stronger with each word. Today, I returned as the owner of this company, and I was treated exactly the same way. Nothing has changed except my bank account, which suggests the problem isn't economic, it's cultural. This store has been operating under a system of prejudice that judges customers based on appearance rather than intent, race rather than respect, assumptions rather than actual ability to purchase. Maria Santos, a young Latina saleswoman who's worked in the store for 6 months, raises her hand tentatively. Mr. Johnson, what does this mean for those of us who weren't involved in what happened today? Marcus nods approvingly at her question. It means you have an opportunity to be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. But first, I need honesty from everyone here. How many of you have seen customers treated differently based on how they looked, how they dressed, or what color their skin was? The silence stretches uncomfortably until James Mitchell, a security guard who's worked the floor for 3 years, slowly raises his hand. I've seen it, sir. Not just here, but everywhere I've worked in retail. It's just how things are. Other hands begin to rise. Not all, but enough to confirm what Marcus suspected. The discrimination he experienced wasn't an aberration but a pattern, a systematic approach to customer service that prioritized appearance over equity. Thank you for your honesty, Marcus says. Now, here's what's going to change. Effective immediately, this store will operate under new principles. Every customer who enters these doors will be treated with respect and courtesy, regardless of their appearance, their age, their race, their perceived economic status, or any other factor that has nothing to do with their humanity. He pulls out his phone and begins reading from notes he's made during his wait. We're implementing mandatory diversity and inclusion training for all staff. We're establishing a mystery shopper program where people of different backgrounds will test our service quality. We're creating an employee feedback system where discrimination can be reported anonymously, and we're instituting a zero-tolerance policy for prejudicial treatment of customers or colleagues. Robert Chen, an assistant manager who's remained silent until now, speaks up. Mr. Johnson, what about the staff who were let go today? Will they have any opportunity to? No. Marcus cuts him off cleanly. Some actions have permanent consequences. Stephen, Jessica, and Tony made choices that revealed their character. I'm not interested in reforming people who see other human beings as less worthy of respect. He moves from behind the counter and walks among the assembled employees, making eye contact with each person as he passes. But for those of you who remain, this is your chance to be part of something better. This store will become a model for how luxury retail should operate, where excellence in service means excellence for everyone. Marcus stops in front of the group and pulls out the business card case from his pocket. I'm promoting Maria Santos to floor manager, effective immediately. Robert Chen will serve as her assistant manager. Together, they'll oversee the implementation of our new policies, while Richard handles the corporate transition. Maria's eyes widen in shock. Sir, I don't have the experience that. You have something more valuable than experience, Marcus interrupts. You have character. Experience can be gained. Character is either present or absent, and I saw how you treated customers before today's revelation. That matters more than anything else. He returns to the counter and finally picks up the Tiffany ring, examining it in the light. The diamonds throw tiny rainbows across the walls, beautiful but cold, lacking the warmth of the woman he intends to surprise. This ring cost $2 million, but its real value lies in what it represents. 20 years of partnership with someone who saw my potential when others saw only obstacles. Marcus looks directly at the remaining employees. I want this store to see potential in every customer who walks through that door. I want you to understand that the person in simple clothes might be the person who changes your life, funds your children's education, or provides opportunities you never imagined possible. James raises his hand again. Mr. Johnson, how do we know when we're doing it right? How do we measure success under these new standards? Success is measured by how we treat people when we think no one important is watching, Marcus replies. Success is the customer who feels welcomed regardless of whether they buy anything. Success is the moment when treating people with dignity becomes automatic rather than calculated. He moves toward the store's entrance, pausing to look back at the group one final time. This store will reopen tomorrow morning with new management, new policies, and hopefully, new understanding. Those of you who embrace these changes will find opportunities for growth and advancement. Those who resist them will find opportunities elsewhere. The employees remain in their semicircle as Marcus walks toward the door, many of them still processing the magnitude of what they've witnessed. The afternoon light catches the diamonds in their cases, creating patterns of light and shadow that seem to dance with possibility. Oh, and Maria, Marcus calls over his shoulder without turning around. When Mrs. Sarah Johnson comes in next week to pick up her anniversary ring, make sure she receives the finest service this store has ever provided. She's waited 20 years for this moment, and I want it to be perfect. The door closes behind him with a soft chime, leaving behind a store forever changed by one man's return to the scene of his greatest humiliation. The diamonds continue to sparkle in their cases, but somehow they seem less cold now, as if reflecting the warmth of transformation rather than the chill of exclusion. In the space where prejudice once reigned supreme, respect has claimed its rightful throne. Marcus Johnson sits in his newly acquired office on the floor above the store, the Manhattan skyline stretching endlessly beyond floor-to-ceiling windows that frame the city like a living painting. The December sun hangs low in the sky, casting long shadows across the polished hardwood floors and leather furniture that now belong to him through conquest rather than comfort. The Tiffany ring rests in its velvet-lined box on his desk, $2 million worth of compressed carbon that somehow feels weightless compared to the emotional journey that brought it here. The office still carries traces of its previous occupant. Family photos hastily removed, personal items packed into boxes that sit stacked near the door, the lingering scent of expensive cologne that couldn't mask the stench of prejudice. Marcus has made no effort to personalize the space yet. This victory feels too fresh, too raw, too connected to pain he's carried for a quarter-century to celebrate with interior decoration. His phone buzzes with a text from Sarah. Hope your meeting went well. Can't wait to hear about your day over dinner. Love you. The simplicity of her message, the assumption that his day involved nothing more complex than routine business, makes him smile for the first time since entering the store. She has no idea that her anniversary gift has become the catalyst for dismantling a system of discrimination one consequence at a time. Marcus opens his laptop and begins typing an email to the executive team at Johnson Enterprises. Today's acquisition of Brilliance & Co. revealed systemic issues that require immediate attention. He begins, his fingers moving with the precision of someone accustomed to making decisions that affect thousands of lives. We're implementing company-wide diversity and inclusion policies that will serve as a model for the entire luxury retail industry. Through the office windows, he watches the city pulse with its eternal rhythm of ambition and achievement. Somewhere in those buildings, other people face the same prejudices he confronted today. Some have the power to fight back, others remain trapped by circumstances beyond their control. The weight of that knowledge settles across his shoulders like a familiar burden. A soft knock interrupts his thoughts. Maria Santos stands in the doorway, her expression mixing gratitude with overwhelming responsibility. "Mr. Johnson, I wanted to thank you for the promotion, but I also need to ask, how do I do this? How do I manage people who might not respect me because of where I came from?" Marcus gestures for her to sit in one of the leather chairs facing his desk. "Where did you come from, Maria?" "East Harlem. Single mother, worked 3 jobs to put me through community college. This job at Brilliance was supposed to be temporary while I saved money for a 4-year degree." She fidgets with the employee badge she hasn't yet had time to replace with her new title. "And you think that background makes you less qualified to lead? I think some people will see it that way." Marcus leans back in his chair, studying the young woman whose honesty reminds him of himself at her age. 25 years ago, I stood where you're sitting now. Not literally, but emotionally. I was convinced that my background, my skin color, my lack of connections would limit what I could achieve. I was wrong about the limitations, but right about the obstacles. He turns his laptop screen toward her, showing the email he's been composing. "Read this and tell me what you think." Maria reads silently, her eyes widening as she processes the scope of changes Marcus intends to implement. This is comprehensive. You're not just changing one store, you're trying to change an entire industry. Change starts with one person, one decision, one moment, when someone refuses to accept that this is just how things are, is a valid excuse for injustice. Marcus closes the laptop and focuses entirely on Maria. "Your background isn't a weakness, it's your strength. You understand what it feels like to be underestimated, dismissed, treated as less than worthy. That understanding will make you a better manager than someone who's never faced adversity." Maria nods slowly, her confidence growing with each word. "What about the customers who won't want to work with me because I don't look like what they expect a manager to look like? Those customers will learn to adapt or find somewhere else to spend their money. We're not in the business of validating prejudice. We're in the business of selling beautiful things to people who appreciate beauty in all its forms." The phone on Marcus's desk rings, displaying Richard Walsh's extension. Marcus answers on speaker, allowing Maria to hear both sides of the conversation. "Mr. Johnson," Richard's voice carries exhaustion and stress. "I've been fielding calls from corporate partners, other store managers, even some of our vendors. Word is spreading about what happened today. Some are concerned about our brand image, others are asking about implementing similar policies in their own businesses." Marcus exchanges glances with Maria before responding. "What kind of concerns about brand image?" "Well, sir, some of our traditional clients are. Let's say they're concerned about changes in our customer service approach. Mrs. Wellington has already called 3 board members, threatening to organize a boycott unless we reverse course." "And what did you tell them?" Richard's pause speaks volumes. "I told them that you own the company now, and your vision will guide our direction going forward." Marcus smiles at the diplomatic non-answer. "Richard, I want you to schedule meetings with every manager in our chain. Maria will accompany me to those meetings as we roll out new standards company-wide. Anyone who has problems with treating customers equally, regardless of race, class, or appearance, can find employment elsewhere." "Yes, sir. Should I prepare talking points about potential revenue impacts, customer retention concerns?" "Prepare talking points about doing the right thing, Richard. The revenue will follow when we become known as the jewelry company that treats people with respect. If we lose customers who only feel comfortable shopping in discriminatory environments, we'll gain customers who've been avoiding us because they felt unwelcome." After ending the call, Marcus turns back to Maria, Still worried about your qualifications for this job? Terrified, she admits with a laugh, but also excited. I've never had the chance to be part of something that could actually make a difference. Marcus stands and walks to the window, looking down at the store entrance where this day's transformation began. Customers are already gathering outside, peering through the windows at the closed store, no doubt curious about the unusual activity they witnessed earlier. Maria, I want to tell you about a lesson my mother taught me when I was 12 years old. We were grocery shopping, and the cashier followed us around the entire store, convinced we were going to steal something. When we got to checkout, she examined every item like she was looking for evidence of theft, double-checked our food stamps, made comments about people like us using taxpayer money. He pauses, the memory still sharp after 3 decades. My mother paid for our groceries with dignity and tact, then took me outside and said, "Marcus, some people will always try to make you feel small, but you get to choose whether you let them succeed. You can let their ignorance limit your dreams, or you can let it fuel your determination to prove them wrong." Maria joins him at the window, both of them looking down at the street where life continues its relentless pace. Did you ever see that cashier again? I bought the grocery store chain 15 years later, Marcus replies matter-of-factly. Implemented employee training programs, promoted several minority managers to executive positions, and established scholarship funds for employees' children. That cashier had retired by then, but I sent her a Christmas card every year afterward, thanking her for teaching me that dignity is something you carry inside yourself, not something others can grant or take away. The sun continues its descent toward the horizon, painting the office in shades of gold and amber that make everything seem touched by possibility. Marcus returns to his desk and picks up the ring box, opening it one final time to examine the diamond that started everything. This ring represents 20 years of partnership with someone who believed in me when I was nobody special, he says quietly. But today, it became something more. Proof that success isn't just about accumulating wealth, it's about using that wealth to create the world you want to live in. Maria watches him close the box with reverence. What happens next, Mr. Johnson? Tomorrow? Next week? Next year? Marcus slides the ring box into his jacket pocket, its weight a constant reminder of love earned and justice served. Next, we prove that treating people with respect isn't just morally right, it's good business. We show the industry that dignity and profit can coexist, and we make sure that 25 years from now, no young person faces what I face today simply because they look different from what someone expects wealth to look like. He moves toward the door, pausing to look back at Maria one final time. Lock up when you're ready to leave. Tomorrow, we start building something better than what we found here. As Marcus steps into the elevator that will carry him down to street level, he reflects on the strange journey that brought him full circle to this place of pain transformed into power. The doors close with a soft whisper, and he descends toward the sidewalk where his car waits to take him home to Sarah, to dinner, to the quiet celebration of love that needs no diamonds to prove its value. But tonight, for the first time in 25 years, the diamond he carries feels worthy of the woman who will wear it, because it was purchased with respect rather than stolen through discrimination, earned through dignity rather than granted through privilege. The boy who was once thrown out for being too poor and too black has become the man who owns the building. But more importantly, he's become the person who ensures that no one else will be thrown out for the same reason. Justice, like diamonds, becomes more beautiful when it's finally brought into the light. Outside on Fifth Avenue, Manhattan continues its eternal dance of ambition and achievement, unaware that in one small store, the world has shifted just enough to let a little more light into the darkness. The revolution began with a single man seeking to buy a ring for his wife, but it will end with thousands of people being treated with the dignity they've always deserved. Some stories end with the hero walking into the sunset. This one ends with the hero ensuring that tomorrow's sunrise will illuminate a world slightly more just than the one he found today.